Here is my recap and review of Dexter New Blood Season 1, Episode 1. It is now available on Showtime, and I just got finished with it, so I wanted to get my review and recap up so you guys will have this. And I'm going to keep the beginning of this spoiler-free so that if you want to watch the first part of the video and not have the show spoiled, that's great. And then I'm going to kind of do the recap in the second half. This was Dexter through and through, and it was great to have the show back. And I really liked the credits at the end. They actually had the theme music, but it was slightly different, a more eerie feel for the new setting that they have. I believe this is taking place in Alaska, and this basically is picking up in real time 8 years later. Dexter works at what I would call like a mini Cabela's in this small town. You know, he sells firearms. They've got tackle. It's basically a mini Cabela's, is what you could consider the shop that he works at. And he's got a new life. He's got a girlfriend who has a daughter. She works actually for the police department there. And we get to see Dexter. The first 45 minutes or so of the show is showing basically Dexter in his new life. And it had a very different feel. Now, what's interesting is Clyde Phillips, the guy who originally did Dexter and was he was part of the first 4 seasons of the original run. He was back in the pilot seat here. And it just had this really weird, different feel. I didn't dislike it, but it was just different. And then the last 15 minutes hits, and it is full-on Dexter. And it was great to have him back. In this season, he is playing an entirely different character. And so we're going to see where this leads. But my overall feelings on this first episode, yes, definitely watch it. If you are a fan of the original series, you are going to love what they did in this first episode, especially the last 15 minutes brings it back full force, and I am really looking forward to this new season. All right, the second part of this is going to be me doing the recap. All right, so here is my recap of Dexter New Blood Season 1, Episode 1, which is entitled Cold Snap. All right, this picks up 8 years later, and actually the setting is going to be taking place in upstate New York in a little town where there's plenty of snow, and it is definitely a small town. And we get to see Dexter at the beginning of this, that he's got a lot of friends. He knows a lot of people in town. And what's interesting is the very first word spoken in this season is, "It's on the floor." And whose voice was it? It was actually Deborah Morgan's. So we have Dexter. His dark passenger this season is going to be Deborah Morgan. So it was nice to see them back in their roles, and she is there giving him advice throughout this first episode. Now it opens up with Dexter running through the snow, and he is getting some cardio there, and he's got a rifle on his back, and he sets down and points his rifle at a very white deer that's out there in the wild, but he never pulls the trigger. And there's a comment later in the episode where you find out where he hasn't killed an animal since he was a teenager, but we know he's killed other things. Now, this is interesting. This is very much a new start to Dexter. They are calling this New Blood Season 1, Episode 1. So it is a brand new series. It's not, even though it's a continuation of the original, it's its own thing. And I do know that they have plans on possibly continuing this after this first season, depending upon how this is received. Now, whether Dexter survives this first season or not remains to be seen, because we're going to see what happens here as I go through this recap. You find out that Dexter has a girlfriend. She works at the police department. She's one of the deputies there. And how they introduce her is very interesting. I'm not gonna spoil everything. I'm just gonna kind of give a basic recap on everything that happened. But they do have an encounter in the beginning of the episode where he gets pulled over, and it's kind of humorous and funny. And you find out that he's working at this not really a tackle shop. It's a hunting shop. Like I said before, I call it kind of like a mini Cabela's. They sell firearms. And at the beginning, there's this young 20-something guy coming in. You know, you can tell he's got all kinds of energy. He's actually the son of this town millionaire. That is this guy that's very well known in the town there and has supported this shop for many years. But he comes in there to buy a $9,000 rifle. Dexter has to put it through. He has to have the background check done and everything cleared through the FBI, and the guy's not happy about this and actually invites Dexter to a party later on in this episode, and we'll talk about what happens there. We've got somebody following Dexter throughout this episode. You see somebody kind of with a hoodie on following Dexter in several different scenes throughout the episode, and Dexter does catch on to this. And later on, you find out that this is his son Harrison. His son Harrison ends up in his house looking for Dexter, and that's when Deborah shows up and basically tells Dexter, you cannot get involved with him. Look at everybody that's died. And she runs through the litany list, this list of just all the people that have died because they were close to Dexter that didn't necessarily deserve it, like Dokes and LaGuerta and Rita and Deborah, and that's when Deborah pulls a bullet out of her side from when she got shot. So this is directly connected, but it's its own new season. This is taking place in the wilderness, in this small town, lots of snow. Dexter has this lake that he's close to that has a hole in it with a chain in it. And at one point he has this weird vision of him pulling Deborah out of the water and her getting pulled down by something that's in the water. And so he's got that set up out there. In the beginning of this episode, he's actually sharpening some knives. And you think they're for Dexter, but they're not. They're actually for this guy who does prepare food down by his shop. He's a butcher, and Dexter gives the butcher the knives, and they are working extremely well. So Dexter has made friends with many different people in the town, and he's known as James Lindsay or Jim Lindsay. Now, what's funny is the writer of the original series of Dexter, the novels, his name is Jeff Lindsay, so they are adopting his last name here for Dexter's second life here. And while in this town, you find out that this boy who bought this rifle from Dexter, that he was involved in a very bad boat accident earlier in his life. And 5 people were killed. Well, you find out later in this episode, he goes to deliver this rifle after it has cleared, goes to this party where the boy is, and talks to his friend who was there on the boat that day. And this guy is coked out of his mind. He's high. He's drunk. And he divulges to Dexter that this boy, he actually covered for this boy in court and said it was him who did this rather than the boy, so that the boy could get away scot-free. And that raises alarms inside of Dexter. He's like, ooh, he kind of perks him up a little bit, and he envisions actually hurting not the boy he was talking to, but the boy who actually did the killings. And he envisions, he delivers the gun to him, and he has this vision of him hitting him with the butt of the gun right between the eyes and knocking him out. That doesn't happen, but that's what Dexter envisions. Well, what happens is later in this episode, Dexter is out in the wilderness, and it looks like he gets cardio by chasing this white deer every day. And he goes out there and tries to confront the deer and goes up to the deer, and the deer actually does go up to him, and he's sniffing, and he's just taking in the beauty of this creature, when all of a sudden this shot rings out and the deer is killed. And come to find out, it's that boy who just bought that $9,000 rifle. And Dexter, this snaps Dexter and brings him back to who he is, sets up a new kill room. I'm not going to get into all of the dialogue and all the things that happen in that scene because it was pretty freaking awesome and it was really well done. It brings it back full circle. He even creates a new slide for blood when he's killing this boy. And he figures he's going to use that lake with the hole in the ice as his new dumping grounds. And this final scene is Dexter coming back to life, and he admits to himself at that point in the mirror that he is Dexter Morgan, and he's going to right a wrong, because he has a conversation with this boy before he kills him, and the boy says, don't blame me. It's the way I was brought up. My parents, I didn't have a good childhood. I had nobody to guide me, and he goes through this whole thing, and it starts making Dexter think about Harrison. And so after he does get rid of the boy, he goes, I'm going to right a wrong, and he goes to find this boy, his son, Harrison, at a bus station, and does bring him back. He's going to bring him back home. Now, what's interesting is when he goes back home, the camera's panning out from where he lives, and he lives kind of like in a cabin out there in the wilderness. there's some blood in the snow by where he had killed this boy, and that's not like Dexter to leave stuff behind. So I'm not sure what that meant. We'll find out in an upcoming episode. But this is just the kickoff of a brand new season, Dexter New Blood, called Cold Snap, and it was really well done. I was really worried in the first 45 minutes thinking that this was going to be fun, but it was going to be a little bit different until it just pulls you right back in the last 15 minutes and definitely has that Dexter feel to it and is going to fit in very well, just a different setting. That's all it is. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Dexter and the dynamics with his son, because how much does his son know? They do make the comment in here that he believes that the girl he sent Harrison off with, that she is still alive, but I don't think she's going to be in this season at all, but we know she's still alive. So maybe Dexter will meet up with her maybe at the end of the season or something. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end up. I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to be reading about this. I'm going to go and recap these episodes every week as they get released. I did look it up, and it does look like his son Harrison is going to be in 10 episodes this season. I don't know. I think it's a 10-episode season, if I'm not mistaken. It's only going to have 10 episodes instead of the original 13. So he is going to be in all 10 episodes. So he's going to be a big part of the show, apparently. So we'll see what happens coming up in upcoming episodes. But there's my review and recap on Dexter New Blood Season 1, Episode 1, which is entitled Cold Snap. All right, we'll see you guys next week on the next recap.